Morning, everybody. So I'm Gill. You've obviously heard from before this morning, and this is the AI and digital breakout session. We've got a really diverse range of businesses in this room, so we're hoping that we're effectively going to act like a think tank, bringing together. Bringing together thoughts and views from across the region and also across a broad range of businesses. So we've got people in this room who, like Balder, have implemented digital into their business, or AI or VR or other digital technologies. And we've also got businesses from the sector who are providing services, digital services. Can we just do a quick straw poll as to who is from the digital sector providing digital services? and how many of you are from businesses who are implementing digital as part of their strategy? And then we've got some other people who are perhaps advising on digital strategies as well. Okay, so really broad mix. What we would like to do, we've got three key questions that we've been asked to address with the audience, to pull together some thoughts around those themes and then to feed them back in the next session. This is it's an opportunity for us to influence and to think about how our views can shape what we do with the region in AI and digital moving forward. I think we're maybe back for maybe here for the feedback session, so we've got an opportunity to to get the ear of the minister if we can put across our points persuasively and cohesively. So the first question that we've been asked to consider is around how this region is currently performing in this sector. So I'll throw that open to the floor, but that sort of things we need to think about are the challenges that the region is facing, the achievements, the success stories, the things that are making this region succeed at the moment in AI and digital, or equally the things that are making it very, very difficult for AI and digital businesses. What do people think? Go on, Dominic, you have some very firm.
Yeah, I'm quite passionate about it, and nice to actually see Siobhan, who's one of my previous lecturers here at Teesside University, as well. So I've seen the sector change and grow significantly in the period that I've been here. From when I first came to Teesside University to where it is now, there was effectively no digital. And that sector has really grown strongly over the last few years. However, one of the challenges that we have in that area is that it was supported for growth quite considerably up until around about 4 years ago, and that growth has then not continued as far as the support mechanisms that are there. We are starting to shorten office space. That's fit for digital businesses, and that creates its own challenges as far as if we want to attract and grow businesses here, we can only grow them to a certain extent, and I think that is one of the major challenges that we have in the area around digital companies.
Has anybody else experienced that? Is that common feeling?
Yeah, I set up a company called VisualSoft, sold out about 4 years ago, and I think we struggled in this area in terms of exactly what Dominic's saying, in terms of expansion. We grew very, very quickly from what seemingly was like 20 staff to 250 staff in a few years. And whilst the support may have been available, I didn't feel it was kind of forthcoming to help us grow. I think we struggled with that growth and that speed of growth and buildings and parking and all the sort of normal things that get people's backs up around this area. Do you know what I mean? It's always it's always a difficult sort of thing. Get right in that we don't seem to have that kind of forward thinking. We've set up a new company now. We're based in Fusion High, which is run by the university, managed by the university, and we're out of parking spaces already, and
we're in there too. So
of course you are. So our, the CEO of our new company, he's just kind of had to turn around and go home. Today he couldn't get a parking space. He's absolutely fuming. So he's like wanting to find alternative accommodation for us, and you know, without buying our own building and laying our own foundations and all that, which I've done before and didn't enjoy. You know, it is difficult in this area.
How close does that push you to consider other areas?
Not massively, because you know the kind of skill force that we have here, and you know the core of the skills that we have here, which we wouldn't want to take outside of this area. Visualsoft have opened up other offices in Manchester, Newcastle, and London, you know, to try and sort of alleviate that problem. We don't want to. We want to stay local. You know, but it's getting to the point now where I'm starting to think of applying somewhere again. You know, and this time getting someone to manage it, so I don't have to. But you know, it is very, very, you know, small-minded in that regard. You know, I just don't understand the legislation around car parking. I just can't get my head around it. We haven't got the infrastructure for public transport in this area. You know, to get to places. I mean, I have to drive to work, and I have to go to meetings. I can't just jump on a train and go to the next meeting, so on and so forth. And we have a now relatively small business, but we've got a 15-man office. We've got 3 parking spaces for 15 people. It just doesn't make sense.
It sometimes sounds really silly that when you talk about car parking, but if you put it in the context of productivity, it actually has a massive impact. If you've got to walk for 15 minutes, 20 minutes or whatever before you can actually get in your car to then go to an appointment and so on and so forth. And it's a similar challenge when you live, you know, dealing with a people-based business where you have to have people out in the field quite frequently.
I didn't mean to make it about parking.
I think it's a really well-made point. Sometimes people kind of push those things to one side.
Sometimes it's the small things that can make huge differences.
Yes.
It is an infrastructure issue.
It is. It's exactly that.
I agree with a lot of what you said, but I wanted to just go back to what you'd said at the very beginning in your presentation. Brilliant presentation. We need to meet. I represent Tharsis, the client of my firm, and I know the kind of things you'll get from them. And I've got a list of other clients who would want to use. And we've based in Teesside all these years, both of us, and we've never really met on a conversation. And I think that's a very interesting thing. I've got a couple of points to make. First of all, we probably need to have a better digital supply chain. The companies in here are in the supply chain where we can collaborate more effectively. And I don't mean just about marketing, I mean about the crunchy stuff, like what price will we give each other? Yeah. I really mean that kind of thing, not just about going out to the wider world and saying we're great.
Yeah, absolutely.
The second thing is, all businesses have to have a digital dimension. And my own business, PR firm, Recognition PR, has increasingly digital dimension. And I'm finding my cloud costs are going up and up and up. And I don't just mean the cloud costs relating to Microsoft, where you could buy Microsoft for an office on a disk about 10 years ago, put it in and have certain licenses. Now, it's every month going up and up and up the cost. It's also, the specialist softwares are all clouds. Editing video on Adobe, for example. Specialist bits of, I'm sure all people in this area have ended up having lots of more money from their bank account paid by direct debit to American-owned firms who suddenly change the terms and conditions. I'll give you an example. I'm a premium member of LinkedIn, and I run the LinkedIn North East England Business Users Group with 8,750 people who are members. And every week for the last 10 years, I've sent them all an email. And it's been really good for my business and those businesses that I promote in the email. And LinkedIn turned it all off last week. So now we're repivoting. We no say, all entirely remote. How do we do that? How do we replicate? How do we create things like that here?
We don't.
You don't.
I mean, LinkedIn is huge, and it's owned by Microsoft, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you don't. But what we have to do is match it to productivity. So why are you using all these tools for productivity? So there has to be, back to your point about, you can do an element of interaction. I'll talk a little bit about what we do. But I actually don't think you can replicate it. We're not going to go build another social network to compete with Facebook. We're not
I wasn't talking about that way. What I was saying,
what I mean.
What I was saying is, how do we I've got my group.
Yeah.
I know who they are. Now I can't reach them by email anymore. Entirely a GDPR related issue.
Yeah, but there are technologies that allow you to do that. So there are free open source technologies that will allow you to create groups of people that interact.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't suggesting we set up our own LinkedIn.
No, but I was going to make the point that I think you make a very good point. You can tell from my accent, I've only been around this region for 3.5 years. I turned up 3.5 years ago in North Tyneside to find 3 massive data centres. They kind of look like that. They're up they were the old Siemens wafer scale lab, and they're massive. They really should be in the southeast of England. They would take up about 10% of the Europe's data centre requirements. And we didn't have any technology coming into it. We had no fibre, we had no networks, we had nothing. So we've spent 3 years challenging ourselves against your point, which is how do we interact with the rest of the region? And we couldn't find out what the rest of the region was doing. It was impossible. This region is just hopeless at telling itself what's going on. I have no idea about you, nobody's got any idea about us. So these sessions are really powerful for bringing this together. So there are fixes to everything you're saying. There are people out there who know how to do it, you just have to find them.
Absolutely.
There tends to be a focus on putting everybody in a building and assuming that they'll all just get on and work together and collaborate. There doesn't seem to be any kind of real, not that I've come across anyway, like high-level digital network that people could actually communicate with each other. Not necessarily, there's loads of business groups out there, and we've all been to them and just get sold to constantly. But there should be something where some of the key sort of digital people can collaborate.
Can I pick up on that? We've talked about this on numerous occasions, having that for skills and talent. So there's no one visible point of contact. It's very disparate. It's 5 universities. There's no link between those in terms of how do you access graduates from all 5. And then we use recruiters. We've got a massive problem with recruiting talent. But the problem seems to be that it's a visibility thing. There is talent, and just picking up on something you said in terms of the David and Goliath thing, fighting against the big boys. A couple of weeks ago, we actually spectacularly flew Amazon. We got a call to provide digital services. We got a call from Amazon saying that the technology we were using was too advanced for them to support, which was quite impressive. So there's talent there, but we have a problem finding it, and we have to use recruitment agencies, which are kind of the bane in my life and very expensive, massive cost in business.
So no, I did find, when I went around the last 3 years, I did find there are loads of network groups. That's the problem, there's loads of them.
Yeah.
So there's Dynamo, and there's Sunderland Software City, and there was Campus North, and it went away, and then there's the new Chinese one, and there's a ton of them. They're everywhere.
Because everybody tries to create
it's impossible for operational businesses like the people in this room to tap into every single one of those. You just can't. There's just not enough. Your productivity would go out the window if you had to tap into every single network that's out there. So I think that's the challenge. Is this whole kind of mapping? I mean, Creative Fuse was one thing, but it really barely tapped into anything.
Yeah.
So there is a challenge, I think, for all of us in this room, is that how do we get to know who's out there, and it can't be by somebody giving you a list. It's got to be somewhere like an Uber platform or a platform where you basically, like My Builder, you go on and say, I need somebody in the Northeast to help me with this, and then everybody else is out there who's signed up to like this breakout session will say, I think I can help you there. You can then choose the shortlist, so you're not forced to speak to the person because you don't use up your whole day. You can talk to somebody else.
Tender for digital.
Just one point, I don't want to, the two of us talk too much, but NOF Energies and the Energy Coast thing, you heard James at the beginning talking about TechMar. My firm represents the Energy Coast network, which is a genuine supply chain organisation, and that's what we don't have in the digital sphere. We have, as you just said, quite lots of little disparate groups, and they're all great, but they're not at the business bit, not at the people who own the businesses necessarily, who are going to talk about the crunchy stuff, the contracts. How do you get proper contracts between digital suppliers? What the prices are, how you market it. They're more about about skill level and techie stuff, and I think a proper supply chain organisation might be a more useful way forward.
I think I agree with what's been said around the networking groups because they tend to become sales forums for people rather than meaningful interventions into people's businesses and collaborations. I think I don't run a digital business. I manage a law firm. I'm an IT lawyer and I have been for 25 years, so I've come across lots of different types of IT and digital businesses over the years, and my perception as an outsider to the digital sector is that it is very fragmented itself, that there are lots of different types of digital company, and digital and AI mean very different things to different people, and there isn't a coherent one definition of this is what a digital business is and this is what it does. So if you are a business who is buying digital services, it's very difficult to know where to go to. It's very difficult to work out who's going to be able to do what I need, and actually I don't know what I need. I'm a law firm, I'm not a digital business, so how do I, as somebody who would be a purchaser of digital services, how do I work out what I need and where to get it? Because from the business point of view, there isn't a one place to go to. None of these groups that are set up, I wouldn't have thought, or somewhere I would go and say, I need this, you can signpost me. Or am I wrong? Is there something out there?
No, there isn't.
Well,
There's nothing I've ever fancied doing.
I suppose, having looked over the involvement in the different networks, it's probably fair to say that there's been great effort to try to make into that, but unfortunately, because of the way funding works differently between the different local authority areas, that creates then further problems that we as businesses don't care about. And something I'm often saying to them is, we don't care whether it's Newcastle or Sunderland or Middlesbrough, we just want this network. I mean, I feel passionate, I come from Harrogate. It's just as close to Harrogate as it is to Newcastle. I don't see why it's all just a northeast focus. I don't see why we're not starting to build a stronger network in there. And I think that has been brought about by the intention to do right, but unfortunately funded through project-based funding rather than a strategy. And that has led us into different silos of support rather than an overall support, which is as a business that we all want and we're all asking for, but at the moment we're kind of a bit hamstrung by the way in which it's being funded.
Maybe I'm being naive, but the people in this room can build that. The people in this room have the skill set to build that. Go back to the days of business directly. The simplest method exists. Surely we could get our heads together and put a platform.
Yeah, I think so.
It's about doing the thinking, isn't it?
Yeah. I think for us is we've got to, as we talked about this morning, we've got to work together as the North, not as Tees Valley and not as the North.
I think there's also a difference in the move from IT. So if you look at a lot of big companies, they will access these services through what they call their trusted suppliers.
Mm-hmm.
So either IBM, HP, Dell, or whatever. As you get down to smaller companies, SMEs, it's more difficult.
Totally.
The other thing, the migration from IT, which is a service, to digital, which is, I quite agree with Dominic, is a way of life, it's just what you're doing. It's very difficult to specify what kind of digital service you're looking for. Very difficult to go to a directory and say, I want to transform my XYZ business.
Yes.
You can't categorize.
Yeah.
You can say in IT you want a server or storage or a communications device. In the digital world, it's very difficult to say, I want something that looks just like this. Because if you know what it is, you do it yourself. It's almost, you're saying it's a discovery thing. You're like, help. I know I want to do this stuff. Somebody help me. So I did that. And that's a challenge. It's a challenge, but it's still doable.
From your presentation, you probably double your business turnover just from people in this room knowing
That sounds good to me.
Like we have the events like at Fusion High, right? Everybody from Fusion High goes, and we all kind of know what each other does. Do you know what I mean? We're not selling to anybody that's like going to buy what we've got. Do you know what I mean? So they're kind of irrelevant to a certain point. Do you know what I mean? Unless like external people come to them, and if they knew that there was one group that had key people in digital and AI, available to them, then they may, this has kind of been brought upon today, from just people saying, want your services. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, I'm just really speaking as an accountant in the room and the lawyers here as well, and probably like yourself, Graham, really, without so much as a formal network, I think businesses should push their advisors really and say, I'm looking for this, and so your accountant or your lawyer might not be an expert, but they act for hundreds of clients, and they've got their own network with other lawyers, other accountants, what it might be. And I think push the advisor really and ask them if they can help, because they will only recommend you somebody who's going to do a good job for you.
So I suspect those advisors will be challenged, so I can throw out some facts that amaze me and will probably amaze you. AI, artificial intelligence. So Microsoft's AI was developed by Newcastle University. I have a clue about that. One of the most high-tech companies that most people have never heard of is a company called Red Hat, and their chief technology officer sits in an office in Newcastle University. Again, blew me away.
But days like this sort of, many things, amazing businesses around us
that's
that don't
the thing,
always
is
share that knowledge.
It's been able to surface that in a way that people can tap in. And I think that's what we're saying is days like this give us a platform to do that.
So would it be fair to say then that there's a lack of events along this line to create this kind of pipeline as well?
But there can't be too many as well, because it just becomes a
That's going to
challenge.
be my getting right people in the room, though.
It's focused.
You've got very specific type people in the room to do.
Sorry, Siobhan.
Yeah, I was just wondering, it's from Teesside University. I was just wondering if, rather, I know what you're saying about creating a new group, but why don't we just, so I'm involved with, you've got Digital City and everything that you've been saying, you've got Digital City, you've got Dynamo, but, an organisation like Dynamo are really, really trying to do more down here, and for us to kind of, partner up with Digital City, why don't we just really kind of be really, really sort of focused on one of those to make that, create that something down here that's linked with one of those bigger organisations that really does what we want it to do. Otherwise, you're creating something brand new, and there's all these, something like...
It's another wheel spinning.
It's kind of like another one, where it's really about, I guess, a group like this, and that could be the university really pushing that, really making that list of what is it we really want, but then actually
business people
partnering
outside
with...
of the university that don't necessarily engage directly with the university. I mean, that we do, but there are I think there are a lot of key people in IT, and that maybe don't have that relationship. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the kind of the hard thing is, and you've also got competition as well. Do you know what I mean? It's difficult to kind of get everybody in the same room who's not going to just start arguing with each other based on jobs lost or whatever. So it can be a difficult situation, but it does need to be something. I don't quite know what, but it would be good if it was.
Okay, well we can take that theme back to the board feedback section. Do you have something to say there?
No.
One of the questions we've been asked to look at is what the regional outlook is for the sector, and I think these things all blend into one. One of the things that Lucy picked up on there was around skills and identifying, finding, recruiting, keeping talent in the region. And we've got an interesting mix here, obviously, with having the university, who are very key in supplying the skills that we need. We reportedly have almost full employment in the region now. How are people finding, identifying, recruiting, getting the right talent into their businesses in the region?
I'm still finding that most talented young people wish to leave, even though that is less than it was. I love the university. I don't want to say something that's critical of the university and imply that I'm beating up on the university. I'm not. It would be great if a young person who left university owing lots of money could have some of that money reduced if they stayed here. They chose to stay here, it was less costly anyway, but they still have fees, and fees have gone up. And maybe there can be some local feedback on fees. A number of young people I've got that go and work in Leeds, or I give them their first job and they use it as a springboard or what have you, or that you don't get access to anyway. I mean, my own daughters, I'm a victim of what I'm saying. I've got two daughters in their 20s. One is a doctor who stayed here, one is a business graduate who has gone to the US. So I understand that you can't tie kids down, young people down rather, but there is sometimes a lack of understanding when a young person leaves a university, particularly what a university that they've attended here, that they maybe, for want of a better phrase, owe the area the skills they've achieved. In the NHS, my daughter, who trained as a doctor, has to stay here in the northeast because she was trained using the university system in the northern NHS region.
One thing I want to add on that is one thing that we've tried to do in Animmersion is we speak regularly with graduates that are coming out of the university, and they will approach us for jobs, and 9 times out of 10 it's very obvious that they actually want to go to London or want to go to America. But we try to build a relationship with them, and we say to them, go and do it. It's fantastic. Go fulfill your dreams. We're here when your ideas change. And that's where I'd probably say 25% of our staff has actually come from, is by keeping in, just because they left the region doesn't mean we can't speak to them, doesn't mean we can't mentor them and educate them and give them an opportunity to realise that we can exist in the North East. And I think that is kind of incumbent upon us, as all the digital businesses, to be engaged with the graduate sector and let them see that while there might not be an opportunity for them right now, as they grow and develop, that those opportunities are going to occur in the region as well. I think that is something that we as digital businesses must do, because if we're not doing it, all we're doing is saying, well, yeah, we appreciate they're probably more attractive, so if it doesn't go right, come back. We've got to make it an attractive proposition.
Yeah. I think as well we have a big role to play here, and this is what we're doing, is to actually raise the profile of your businesses to our students as well. That's massive, because sometimes they really don't realise, our games graduates, our Animmersion graduates, I'm just looking from my school, but they don't realise there are these incredible companies. So we have a massive role, I think, to work with you to do all exactly like you're saying about kind of really promote your brand to our first years, second years, third years, right the way through. So they're just hearing all about, sometimes they don't even know about Animmersion. Sometimes that happens. So, and also
and
just
you are successful. I have to say, in the northeast, many more Teesside University graduates do stay here.
Yeah.
But there's no formal mechanism, which is why I was addressing. But you are successful.
Can I just say something? I think there are two strains of this session. There are the people who are in the industry, the digital industry, and then there are businesses who want to use digital services. And I think that there's a similar problem in both things, of keeping talent within our business. Something that we try to do is actually give a progression path for those people. So instead of losing good people to better opportunities elsewhere, we're actually giving small share options to really good people and saying, grow your talent here, we'll give you the support. And I always say to any really good person within my business, if you're tempted to go off and start a business, come to me first, because I might even back you. And I think if there was that internal within your business of that progression of keeping and nurturing that talent here, and possibly sending them off. I mean, chefs do it all the time. They send their staff off to some of the best restaurants in the world for 3 months and then come back. And that's how they keep and grow and develop their talent. But I don't think as businesses we're as inventive enough to actually keep those talents within our own companies.
I think one of the things that we were talking before the session around how you've approached recruitment in your business, Dominic, and that was around not being fixed around the skills that you needed.
No.
Being much more open about who you get in to do specific jobs.
Yeah, and that was a very good point. We were fortunate when we were at the university, we got to learn at a time when it was kind of just being invented to be kind of got the basic skills, but I feel like we've moved into a space, as you say, where we are testing people for their skills and not their personality. And as we all know within a business, it's actually the personality that fits much better. Digital skills, any skill can be learned. It's just whether you're willing to be committed to teaching that skill. And it's the point that I made downstairs, is I feel really passionately about the fact that we can do that with digital skills, but it's also attracting people outside of the digital sector to work in digital and saying, well, you can still carry on doing what your career path is, but in the digital sector. And I think that is still something that we need to work on as well, because almost everybody that we try to work with when it comes to doing it is just going, oh no, I'm not touching that thing, I might break it. And then just, how are we ever going to move things forward? So I think that becomes a key part to making sure we're getting it right, is educating not just people about the skills, but about how it can exist.
We've had this conversation, but how do you teach attitude?
Yes, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Experience is the only way to do it, in my opinion.
Thank you. We know that the exodus from the North East has been an ongoing generational element. I think the way that we'll encourage young people to either leave and then come back is by them having an awareness of how many opportunities there are in the North East. So the actual underlying thing isn't going to be financial incentive, it's a knowledge that there are dozens of companies in the North East that could be attractive to work at. So every business telling its story, and I think joining its own clusters. Graham made the point in terms of NOF Energy and Energy Coast, and sectors do have these clusters. I think something that will be a challenge, and you'll know this, Dominic, is we won't be alone in this, but we'll have lots of businesses that for understandable reasons are led by analogue chief execs in a digital world. And this isn't a particular point. One of the organisations I represent is a building society, going since 1816. It's a challenge to think what's the digital strategy for a building society, which by its very nature is a very old-fashioned and simple model. And I think there is going to be, if there's an audience to win, it is the people that make the decisions on who you hire, what the business is run, and for them to improve in a way that isn't too much of a challenge, how digital can help their bottom line. Your presentation today, I think if there'd been a host of manufacturing chief execs there, they would have all been able to, the penny might have dropped, this can actually help me manage their business. But I think one of the challenges that we've got is lots of businesses then think, what are we going to do about digital, rather than it being wrapped into their strategy and their
So a quick observation on that. I think you're right about clustering, but one of the challenges that we observe from a digital provider is that when you cluster around what we would call a vertical,
yes, a vertical,
the digital is horizontal.
Yeah.
It goes right across all of those.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Dominic and I would...
The quickest way is rather than trying to create something, we know how long things can take to create in a fragmented region, is that part of the challenge with digital is to try and make contact with the 4 or 5 clusters that currently exist to try and get their message. But I think if there was something that was going to help crack digital, it would be some sort of forum and events where the owners, the chief execs of key organisations across the North East are brave enough to learn a wee bit more about digital and its applications for their business.
I think the deal would have helped a lot.
So what I want to say is that I work for a voluntary training and IT and digital apprenticeship training provider. There's lots of talk about graduates, and you're talking about the skills that you look for. So our screening process, we look for human skills now rather than the technical talent, because we believe the apprenticeship will give them the technical talent. We've got lots of people now in talent pool, but our challenge is to get the businesses to take an apprentice, because they won't invest at the 16 to 18 age. And I'd like to understand from other businesses why that might be, why they don't feel that, it's always, no disrespect to graduates, but it's always, there's lots of talk, everybody here has talked about graduates and not an apprenticeship level, whereas there's loads of people in the region who would give their right arm to be in a business like yours, and it'd be interesting to know what people think about that.
I think at graduate level you've kind of chosen your path. We've just recently took on an apprentice, and he lasted 2 weeks because he decided it wasn't the path for him. He wanted to go in, instead of digital, he wanted to go into healthcare, which within 2 weeks I can't understand, that process. So we've kind of been, we're a bit more hesitant now to take on apprentices because they're not on the path fully just yet. Do you know what I mean? It's difficult to kind of, we give 2 weeks of full support to that apprentice. That costs us time and effort, money, I suppose, at the end of the day. Only for them to just turn around and say it's not for them. I know that could be an isolated thing.
Exactly, and that can happen to anybody that might have a change of decision.
I think if you spend 4 years going to university,
yeah.
You're more likely to give it more than 2 weeks. Do you know what I mean? So I think the apprenticeship side of it, from a digital perspective, because it's new and everything changes so rapidly, it's difficult to kind of say, well, come in and do this job. Do you know what I mean? It's, it is very sort of and overwhelming. Do you know what I mean? So much to learn and so on and so forth. It's like
I left school at 16 and did a YTS many years ago, you know, and I didn't necessarily know what pathway I wanted, but, you know, it's I suppose the business that I went into gave me that opportunity and, you know, set me on a pathway really. And unfortunately you've had a bad experience with the one that you've had, but that's not to say that that would always be the case.
No, I mean, my previous role, we did have good apprentices that came through, don't get me wrong, but it is kind of, because of digital not being a fully fledged sector just yet, that's clearly defined, clear paths, you know, where healthcare, you know, you've got certain areas you can go in and so on and so forth, so it's kind of clear. And I think we're kind of stuck with the millennials at the moment in that they're, you know, we've gone from, you know, my dad used to work at ICI, your dad used to work at ICI, do you know what I mean? So you're going to work at ICI, or you're going to work down the pit, or whatever it might be. We've transitioned from that to a, you know, something where there's no clear path for these, you know, young kids coming out. So universities are thriving because, you know, they go to university whilst they decide. You know, there's no, you know, this clear path has disappeared now. So they're kind of, oh, we have to go.
Push it out.
So if anyone wants to join me now,